In today's video, I want to break down the whole quantity versus quality misconception. Everyone thinks it's one or the other, maybe a combination that can lead them to success. But what I've found is that there's a specific way to approach it. And I've built this 3-step framework that I'm about to get into that'll teach you how to approach this whole quantity versus quality to maximize your chances of success in whatever you're doing. It could be content creation, it could be improving your productivity and doing more in your work field, improving your building or improving your business, whatever it may be. The whole quantity versus quality thing applies. And this 3-step framework, I think, will help you guys get the most out of your work. So the first part of this whole quantity versus quality is understanding that you must do quantity. You don't know what quality looks like. I'm going to speak in terms of content creation because that's more so what I base quantity versus quality on, but think of it, apply it to your specific field as well to help you get a good understanding. And I'll give some analogies as well to help you better understand it. But when you're first starting off, you must do quantity. Quality, you might think you know what quality looks like, but to your audience, for example, in a content creation situation, you don't know what quality looks like for you or for your audience. You don't know what your audience likes. So that's why you must do a shit ton of quantity until you figure out what quality looks like. Then you can worry about quality later. So when you're just beginning, do quantity. It's not the other way around. That's the first step. No matter what you do, it's always quantity, because quantity will help you figure out what is quality, because by doing quantity, you'll try a bunch of shit out. You might be stuck. You might not know what to do. So you'll try a bunch of stuff out, bunch of different variants, and over time, you'll start to see like, okay, one thing works, this one doesn't do good, but you still must focus on quantity for an extended period of time. This stage I like to call blind consistency, because this is when you're focused more so on just being consistent, just showing up. You know, when they say just show up, just do the thing, don't focus on being perfect. Imperfect action is what gets the ball rolling. And when you have the ball rolling, then you can worry about improving yourself. And that same concept applies to this situation, quantity versus quality. Focus on quantity, get the ball rolling, get used to having the ball rolling through imperfect action. And then over time, you'll start to see what works, what doesn't. But in the beginning, it's quantity, blind consistency. Imagine like you start in a maze, okay? You start in like the center of the maze. You have to find your way out. There's a few different directions you could choose, but you can't just sit there and think about which one works, because a maze, you've never been in this maze before. Sure, maybe you've been in other mazes before. You might have an idea how a maze works, but this one is different than all the ones you've been in the past, and you're not going to know which direction to go to until you try. Until you try a path that any path, it could literally, there's no specific reason in this situation at that current point for you to choose one or the other, except for just your gut feeling. That's it. No like time wasted towards thinking. You must pick, get the ball rolling, imperfect action, have that blind consistency of just showing up and find the path, because any path is better than not taking a path. You can't stay stuck there. Over time, we can slowly transition to the second path, which comes into quantity, but also kind of figuring out what quality is for you. Because at this point in time, let's say you're in that maze, you pick the route, you're moving forward a little bit, you've done a little bit of quantity for a decent amount of time. You've tried a few different variants, you've tried a few different things, whether it be a few different business ideas, or you've worked on something for a long enough time, or you've made enough pieces of content of different variations for an extended period of time, and you have a large sample size. Now you know what quantity is, and you see some videos popped off, or some things did really well and made you have a lot of result in whatever you're working on, and you keep that in the back of your mind. This is when you look back on your blind consistency, and you're no longer blind anymore. You reflect on the consistency you had, and you see what's been the thing that gave me the biggest output for the most leverage for my time spent. And you take a look at that. While you still focus on quality, remember, you still don't shift 100% to quality. In the second stage, you're focused on quantity, but slightly prioritizing the quality. So you're like 80% quantity, 20% of doing the quality, okay? And that 80% of quantity is like trying whatever you've been doing before and some new stuff as well, just to stay consistent. Before it was 100% quantity, imperfect action. Now it's 80-20, 80% imperfect action, 20% kind of curated approach of your quality stuff. And you're slowly kind of seeing how the quality stuff performs now, seeing the stuff that the strategy you've developed now from what you have. You can't develop strategy again out of nothing. So this stage, a lot of people get stuck on because they do quality, but then, or they do quantity, they kind of see, they have the quality a little bit, but they don't prioritize it. They just continue doing step one, which is imperfect action, the quantity portion of it. When you continue doing the quantity portion of it, you're forcing yourself to be stuck on step one. Eventually, yeah, you'll get it down, but you're making the process a lot longer. And in this video, we're breaking down the way you guys can get to the most successful point or have the most leverage in whatever you're doing. And in that approach, once you kind of do a large amount of quantity and you have some stuff that kind of popped off or did well for you, that's going to be your quality, and you want to leverage that and do more of that. So this is an example of this using the May situation is like, you're looking back on kind of how far you've been. You've taken one path, you've made some progress in, and you're looking back and you're seeing like, okay, I've been on this path. I've taken this approach, and this approach. They've both led to nowhere. So I know I'm not really supposed to go in those directions. I know I should keep going forward in the way I'm going. And you have kind of a strategy on like, okay, I've been back there. There's no reason for me to turn around and go back because that'll take me to square one. I don't want to go to square one. That would be the same thing as doing the blind consistency, avoiding what's been working for you, right? We don't want to do that. So you avoid stuff that were a dead end that you figured out, and you continue on the approach that's a little bit of the unknown, but in line with what you found is getting you closer to your goal. All right. So this is when you're prioritizing a little bit of the quality, but still having quantity. Once you do this long enough and you start to see the quality also doing pretty well, and it's like kind of following the thesis you had of like, okay, let me do more of the quality stuff that's working. Once you do this, you approach the third step, which is where you do quantity of the quality. You do quantity of the quality. You found what works. You found what's doing good. You had a strategy that you tested out and you found it worked pretty well. And the quality is qualitying. Equality is quality. Yes, I made that word up. Quality is qualitying. So you're going to do more of the quality because you found that works, and you're going to prioritize the quantity of the quality now. Now the 80-20 flips. It could be like 60-40, whatever. 80-20, let's just say the 80-20 flips. Now 80% is quantity of quality, and the 20% is where you're still kind of testing the waters. You're trying new stuff out to see what works in case, let's say, the quality is maybe not performing as well, or maybe you find another approach that does better than your quality, or you can add to your arsenal. Maybe it's just as good as your current quality. You can, that new stuff that you're testing out becomes part of your quality. So this kind of represents like in the maze, like all the routes that you've kind of tested, you've tried a bunch of stuff. Some didn't work. Some new stuff kind of added to your routes that weren't on the original route. And now you know how to approach the maze because you've kind of discovered all like the dead ends that you're not supposed to go in. And you're really close to the end. You kind of you saw the end, you saw a peak of the end a little bit, but you don't know quite exactly how to get there, but you know if you stay on this path and go in this direction, it's going to get you closer there. You know you shouldn't turn back at all. Now you're 100% sure you shouldn't turn back because you know this way you're going forward is the right way. And you should just go like left to right, you know, kind of figure your way out because you saw the end is nearby. Now you're in that stage of quantity of quality. You know what works, and you're doing more of what works. Majority of it is what works, and a little bit is just testing the waters to see like, maybe you find something else that improves what you're currently doing and adds to it, adds another layer to it, improves it as well. So that's pretty simple example. Like, I don't know why a lot of people overcomplicate this. You just have to focus on quantity first, quality, observe the quality as you're doing after you do a lot of quantity. Once you observe the quality, you slightly prioritize it, right? You do a little bit of the quality. You're like, okay, let me focus on this a little bit. Let me take it up a notch and do more of the quantity of the quality, because the quality is starting to work. So then you get step 3 where you do quantity of the quality. And that allows you to maximize your chances of success and increase the leverage in whatever you're doing, like content creation, improving your business, improving your productivity, so many different factors, right? Apply this to your own thing. And the maze example I gave you, think about that and compare that analogy to your own situation. You're testing the waters now 20% of the time, and 80% of the time, it's quantity of the quality. Okay, because who knows? The quality, maybe it doesn't work anymore and you have to pivot what you're doing. One method of quality is not going to work forever, right? You might have to kind of try new stuff. Maybe you have a way of doing some work, your productivity technique. Let's say you found the quality of that gave you the most kind of productivity. It gave you the most leverage, but you see your body's kind of used to it and you're getting a little bit lazy and you're not doing as good with the current method that gave you the initial quality. So you still need to test the waters now and find a new method to improve the quality and add to it and make it better again. That's why quantity is still important, right? You want to always have the quantity with the quality. It's never one or the other. It's always a balance on which you should be prioritizing based on the situation. For example, with content creation, you first start off with quantity. Then once you have a shit ton of quantity, a shit ton of videos posted, you have some stuff that gained traction, some styles that didn't gain traction. You analyze your content. You see what worked good, what did well for me and my audience, and what didn't work well. And you find that, okay, out of the 90, 100 videos I posted, like 5, 10 did extremely well. And out of those 5 or 10, what types did extremely well? What style can I kind of get out of this? Or what hook or what framework did I approach with these videos that caused it to do really well? And what type of videos ended up doing poorly? Like the worst, the bottom 20 instead of the top like 10. Now you compare those, you check those out, you see how those did, and you kind of develop a strategy for what is quality for you, leads you to the second step, and you prioritize like that strategy. Now you do a little bit of that quality stuff as well. You don't just blindly stay consistent and blindly show up. You have a little bit of quality. Okay, again, key component, don't get stuck in the blind consistent stage. A lot of people do that and they never progress. They just get, oh, let me show up, let me do half-ass work, let me just show up. Consistency is key, guys. Consistency is key. You show up and you don't get anywhere, or at least you have a lot slower progress compared to someone else that's strategically approaching this quantity versus quality thing. So you show up, prioritize quality, and you're doing quantity, testing the waters, or not testing waters, but majority is quantity still, and you're testing your strategy. Once your strategy is working and your quality is qualitying, then you do quantity of the quality, and you can kind of minimize the testing the waters, the quantity of other stuff, and you maximize quantity of the quality of what works. And you keep doing that. And then if you have to go back a step to step 2 where you do quantity of other stuff and then quality of what's currently working, that's fine. Sometimes the quality that was originally working is not going to work anymore, and you have to take a step back, do quantity of other stuff, and find what works. But the key is, again, I can see where people say this, consistency. You gotta always show up. But the thing is, if you just show up, if you're doing the bare minimum, you're not going to get anywhere. That's a quote I've heard a lot, is you don't rise to your goals, you fall to your systems. And if you don't have the right system set in place, if you can have the highest ceiling in the world, but if you don't have a structured floor, everything's collapsing. Everything's collapsing. You need the structured floor, and then you can build to the ceiling. You can't build the ceiling before the floor. Simple. All right. I think I just cooked on that. Not going to lie. But that's the framework. Quantity first, a little bit of quality, then quantity, then maximize on the quality and do a tiny bit of quantity of other stuff. That's it. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed that video. I covered pretty much all I want to say about that quantity versus quality thing. By the way, if you guys are on your path to becoming the best version of yourself, you want to kind of gain control of your mind, you're ambitious, but you're a little bit lazy, you know you want to do something big, and you want to work on becoming the best, most powerful, authentic, disciplined version of yourself, I have a program in the description of this video that's going to help you do just that. So check that out if you're interested in that. Other than that, I'll catch y'all in the next video. Take care, y'all.